This is Modernizing CX across business models. We're going to talk a little bit about what's changing in the world of CX, how that's really shaping up across all different businesses, different industries. I'm Ben Lawder. I'm the Senior Vice President of Customer Experience at Kantar. Those of you that don't know us, we provide a lot of the intelligence that powers many of the world's largest brands. So we'll talk a little bit about the interplay between brand and customer experience and how we kind of see that. Thrilled today to be joined by two of our favorite clients and some of my personal favorite brands. So we'll give you kind of some stories along the way. But Allegra and Ben, thanks so much for joining us today. Do you want to do a quick intro of yourself?
Sure. Very excited to be here today. I'm going to be real with you guys. I'm going to Backstreet Boys later, so I'm also very excited about that. But this is my second favorite thing I'm doing tonight. I lead our retail healthcare delivery, which is our clinic practices and our digital programs at CVS Health. And I also have a team under me that focuses on new measurement. So very excited.
Very good. Well, firstly, thank you for having me here today.
Yeah.
It's a real pleasure to fly over all this way, meet all you lovely people, and talk to you a little bit about what we're doing in the UK with customer experience. I'm Ben Sargeant. I've been with Hyundai UK for 10 years in various roles, mainly customer experience and after sales. And I've just actually been appointed to lead Genesis in the UK across all elements. So I've just taken on board Genesis as we relaunch that brand as our luxury brand. So it's great to be here to talk to you about that.
And when we say that these are brands that that I use on a daily basis, I'm not kidding. So in terms of, I'm 4 months into life at Kantar. I am out on the road visiting customers frequently. So yeah, last week I'm in West Coast. I'm normally in Atlanta, pick up a cold traveling. And so I spent time in 3 different CVSs in 2 different states last week with the loyalty program, with the filling a prescription that happens to be through Aetna. So our insurance in the CVS world. And I'm driving around to all of these places in a brand new Hyundai Ioniq 5 that we picked up. I will say that as a plug for everybody attending conferences like this, we were on our way to test drive another car. That dealership did not open until 9 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, well, I've heard so many good things about Hyundai from these sessions and from working with them that I was like, they open at 8. We're going to stop in and swing by that dealership first. And swinging by and having the right customer experience and being able to deliver on that means that we now own own a new Hyundai. So in terms of, you may actually drive significant sales by showing up and attending these events and participating. So good lesson for everybody. So wanted to kind of give one stat just to kind of ground us. And this is something that we talk about a lot, especially in the week of the Super Bowl. We get a lot of questions. Kantar works with 98 out of the top 100 global brands. And one of the big questions that we get from CMOs especially is, what drives brand growth? What do I need to be doing to accelerate to boosting in the market? And as you would expect, coming from ads and the paid media and kind of all of that world, that is an important portion. That only gets you about 25% of the way there. So that's good, and it's hard to do well without that. But really, the other 75% is tied into the experience that you deliver, the product experience, the sales experience, everything else that comes a part of that. So in terms of, you can do the best ads and the funniest moments and the best media campaigns, but if you're not showing up and delivering when it counts, then you have a very hard time delivering on that as a brand. And you can do all of that right and not have the media piece on the left, and it's very hard to do it. So in terms of, a lot of times really connecting and bringing those two together. So I guess kind of with that, the framework, maybe Allegra, we'll start with you. So CVS is almost 9,000, or maybe right around 9,000 retail locations, 100 million plus customers, enormous scale. When you're thinking about kind of modernizing and evolving kind of the brand, what are some of the things that you're really thinking about kind of keeping your program fresh and new?
Yeah, we talk about that a lot. So I would say a core focus for us, that we are a large program scale. We have about 250 surveys, 18 million customer responses a year, 90,000 frontline users, 93% of our stores are logging in weekly. So we have a very engaged base. We're really lucky in that regard. I would say we talk a lot about going beyond surveys, that we are not here to tell the weather. We are really here to connect to operational insights and behavioral data. So a lot of what we're doing in terms of innovation of our program is connected data, predictive data, understanding populations that are difficult to survey. And that's really when we think about innovation, sort of our core focus areas.
Ben, what sort of ways are you kind of evolving your program, and how are you thinking about this kind of shifting kind of some of the themes this morning. How are we moving beyond surveys, thinking about how you're picking up more signals to
Yeah.
tell a bigger picture?
I guess I'll start with one of the challenges that we've had for a period of time. So when you look at measurements like NPS, and you've got a dealership network that are being pushed to achieve higher and higher scores year on year, you tend to see some kind of behavior challenges. I'll give you an example. Maybe you are sat in a car dealership and somebody puts a mug in front of you or a cup in front of you and it says, score me a 10 out of 10. Or you have a follow-up after you visited a dealership and they're like, oh, I really need you to score me really well today. And my bonus is paid on this. The challenge with that is it triggers the wrong behavior and you don't get a natural scoring. Yeah. So when you see NPS score increase significantly up to the 90s, 95, that's not real. That's not real. That's not what customers are getting. So what we've done at Hyundai UK is we've changed the way we manage customer experience measurement. So we switched to what we call experience index score. And I like to position that as a holistic view on customer experience. And I'll talk about why that's the case. So we start with maybe a hygiene measure. So data capture from the outset. So are you getting correct customer information, email address, phone numbers, all of that stuff that you need to engage with a customer? Because unlike CBS, our customer experience process could be quite elongated. Yeah, buying a car is generally something that you might do every 5 years at best, and it's one of the biggest purchases in your life. So we have to make sure that we work with those customers for a period of time. So getting the right data is really important for us. So there's a measurement in there for data. Then we switch to what we would call things like email bounce rates, delivery rates, and we put a measure in place for that. So capturing the data, connecting with the customer. Then NPS comes in, and NPS has a key area within what we're trying to achieve. So that's another measure. But then we go a little bit off piece there. So we start looking at social engagement. So the likes of Google reviews, the likes of Trustpilot, if you know those platforms. So going outside of a traditional model and bringing in external independent reviews into the mix. And then alongside that, once you have all of that, I am revealing a little bit of the secret sauce that we use here today. Well, once you have all of that, it's then how do you manage things like detractors? Okay, so you get a detractor. The most important thing about detractors is that you engage with a customer afterwards to understand what's gone wrong and how you're going to fix things. So alert closure rate pulls in and response rate. That mixture allows us to create what we call an experience index and gives us that holistic view. Now, I guess why have we done that and what are the outputs? Well, within the automotive world, we pay margin or bonus based upon customer experience. And when you have all of those measures, it removes any argument to say, okay, that was an incorrect survey that was sent, or the customer may have been having an off day. You've got a mix, and that allows us to deal with any pushback that we'll get from our dealer network, but have that clear view on exactly what the customer wants and needs.
So one of the things that both of these brands do a great job at is something that at Kantar we call meaningfully different experiences. And so we use those words kind of very intentionally. But when you're really thinking about what drives business value of programs like this, I feel like a lot of times in the space, we've been here for years. I've worked in the space for 25 years. I've worked with 300 and something different brands. And they've gone from talking about we have to eliminate the friction. We have to make it easier. And yes, that's important. And we need to make this something that is unique to our brand and something that that feels like a repeatable experience. So when you go into one CBS, you're going to have a similar experience as you go down. But it's a pretty disproportionate curve. So when we look at this across hundreds of thousands of data points, looking at many different organizations, it's the organizations that find a way to deliver those wow moments. So those signature moments, the things that really solve a customer problem, they feel unique to the brand. It's something that you can kind of really say, yes, like this is a key part of the problem. And you can't do that everywhere across the board, but can you find those moments that are unique, that help you stand out from the crowd, and really kind of build some of that long-term kind of brand love when you have stuff. So I think one of the examples that I love is a program. I think it's Tomorrow's Journey, right?
Yeah.
So in terms of rethinking what I know is one of the kind of critical elements of a car buying process, which is the test drive. Has anybody done a test drive recently? Positive experience, negative? Yeah, it's like sometimes you look at it and that can be a a fairly rough sort of experience. So tell us a little bit kind of what you're doing and how you're approaching kind of some of these signature moments.
Yeah, well, of course, I know you just bought an Ioniq 5, which I'm very grateful for. It's great to see you in one of our products. But you've had a test drive, and we were talking last night about your test drive experience, and not with Hyundai, but with another brand. And how did that go?
Yeah, so I won't say the brand. I haven't seen them around the halls here, but just in case they're here, I'm sure that this was a one-off isolated experience. But we'd heard recommendations, we'd done our online research. My wife is I could be in a crowd all day long and like mingle with all of you guys. My wife is the exact opposite, and she's like, I want this process to be as simple as possible. We go in, reserve a time to go test drive a car. And they said, oh, we don't have that particular one. And we thought it was maybe just a different trim. It doesn't have the, I don't know, the leather seats or the moonroof. But they ended up putting us in an entirely different car. It wasn't even an electric car that we were shopping for. So it wasn't even in like the same category. And it was just like, this is what we have. See what you think about this today and everything. And so it was just, from that standpoint, it's pretty hard to recover and to kind of get that down. So going from a process that we didn't have a whole lot of desire to consider the brand just because you had that one moment that felt pretty off. So
Yeah, that's not a one-off, by the way. That happens a lot. I see that a lot on customer feedback. I guess we're getting smarter at what we're doing, particularly about how we interact with customers. So we launched a platform called Tomorrow's Journey. It's a digital test drive program. It allows us to assess customer behavior and dealer behavior and ensure we're getting that correct information. So if you'd gone through our platform, we would have received that feedback from you and been able to do something differently about it. I mean, hopefully with our platform, you wouldn't have gone through that experience anyway. But what is it? It's a digital test drive booking journey, but it goes beyond traditional test drives. So it provides customers with complete flexibility about when they want their test drive, how long they want it for. Do you want it overnight? Do you want it for a week? Do you want it for a weekend? Do you need it at a particular time of year? So you can book in online, you can make that request. But not only do you book in online for that request, but you choose a specific vehicle, the exact specification that you want. And if the dealership that you're going to doesn't have that, then we'll move the cars around to make sure they're available. So that experience that you went through, you wouldn't have got through a platform that we've embedded. Also rebooking options for complete flexibility. And the reason for doing that is exactly the challenge that you had. It removes that customer pain point and allows us to deliver the experience that you expect. Now that platform's done really well for us. It's up for an award this year, in March. So best application of technology at the Institute of Customer Service. So fingers crossed we might get an award for that as well.
yeah,
So yeah.
it's a space that needs disruption. So I love it. Allegra, when you're thinking about putting kind of your program in context and how do you kind of show up and talk about being different and unique in the way that you show up, how do you kind of think about MDX? How do you think about kind of the broader kind of benchmarking your program?
I am a self-proclaimed Kantar fangirl and MDX fangirl. I've been working with Kantar in different organizations, different capacities for the better part of 15 years. I'm a really big believer in the framework. And at CVS, I think there's sort of two ways we really think about this framework. One is with competitive benchmarking, which is a program that Kantar leads. We're a very happy partner of Kantar. I would encourage all of you who are CX program owners to not just focus on your own customers' experiences that have successfully transacted with you, and to think about the larger marketplace where those experiences exist. There's a real dynamic that can happen where you can see your NPS going up and you can see churn going up at the same time, and that's because customers that are leaving your brand are not filling out surveys anymore. So it's something we focus on a lot. Is competitive benchmarking, is really thinking about how our brand is stacked up against, from an experience standpoint and from a brand standpoint, against all of the different categories that we work in. The other thing that we focus on a lot is service recovery and closed loop feedback. We know that a negative brand experience is far worse for the brand, and as opposed to a positive experience strengthens the brand. It is much harder to recover from that detractor experience. So we do a lot in terms of really trying to proactive recover from those experiences to try to make sure that we're not losing people from our brand.
And so when we talk about being meaningful and different and standing out in any industry that you're in, that's not just like, oh, that feels good and like that sounds great. I'll give you 2 data points. So the first one, I think it's like 10,000 data points, significant number of data points across multiple different organizations that we work with, have have consistently shown that the organizations that invest in customer experience, that focus on improving their customer experience, they are 2.5 times more likely to significantly increase their market share. So in terms of, you want to go up and figure out how are you getting the attention of your C-suite, how are you getting the attention of your CMO or your COO, that's certainly one, is how do we help you gain share in the market, not just report the news, not just, what was Sid's comment, like, we don't want to be the score trackers anymore. A different lens of looking at it, customers that perceive that you are different and that you're unique and that you stand out and they understand how your offering in whatever field works, they are significantly more likely to pay much more for your product. Everybody wants to make money. Everybody wants to not be the low price kind of spots. When we're differentiating, we're standing out. This is a great way to really kind of uniquely do that. So we've got those kind of two data points. Are there ways that you really think about kind of showing the impact, proving the value of your own program? Kind of how do you start to think about that?
Yeah, we spend a lot of time on this. I would say at CVS, we really talk about ourselves as an operational CX program. I said we don't tell the weather, and we really don't. There are a couple of things. NPS is very central to our management incentive plan of 300,000 colleagues across CVS. That is definitely putting your money where your mouth is. It is a beast to manage. I will not pretend it's not my colleague back there is the one that manages it. And it's something that we, put a lot of time and energy behind, but it means that everyone really has skin in the game in terms of customer experience. I think the other core component and the other way we talk about it is just constant operational linkage. So at a store level, I can tell you for one of our 9,000 stores, if you were to change the carpet, what would the impact be? If you were to change the inventory, what would the impact be? If you were to change the staffing model, what would the impact be on NPS, on script growth, and on revenue? So we do a lot to link all of those things. We are never just reporting out NPS. So that's really sort of the core component for us, is just constant, very rigorous operational and behavioral linkage.
Ben, what about Hyundai?
Yeah, there's a couple of things that we do. Obviously, network profitability is extremely important for us, because we don't have a dealer network that's profitable, then you don't have a dealer network. But we support them in various ways. One of the projects that we launched is a lapsed customer program. So we're looking through service and customers that aren't visiting after a period of time, and re-engaging with those customers when historically that hasn't been something that's been done, as a normal thing to do every day. To engage a program like that, and that's really interesting insight that comes back from that, actually, because sometimes when you speak to customers, it's like, oh, I just forgot, or actually I didn't have a great experience last time, but because you contacted me, I'm going to come in and see you again. So we implement various programs like that to try and drive additional profitability. But one of the things that we're quite good at is we can get access into a lot of data. I think there might be some restrictions in the US, but we can get right down into invoice data and DMS data, and we can pull that out of the dealer systems. And then we run that against what we would call a balanced scorecard. And within there's a profitability pillar that tells us exactly how profitable our dealers are. And there's a direct correlation. So the top 25% in terms of customer experience, lo and behold, are 32% more profitable than the rest of the network. So for us, it's always about trying to understand what is the customer experience program delivering and how is it helping you. I mean, the Lapsed Customer Program is a platform that's been developed through Kantar in Medallia, and it's automated. So it will trigger at a certain point in time. And then we'll have various contact centers that will reach out to those customers to understand, why are you lapsed, and what can we do to potentially win your business back. So yeah, they're the kind of the programs that we put in place, and the feedback from them is really good.
I love how do we get to something that shows that we're taking action and we're doing something, we're becoming that business transformation resource instead of we're becoming the measurement person, the survey person. Before we jump into questions here in just a second, so both highly successful programs, very complex programs, award-winning programs. What's next? What are the things that you're looking at that you're like, this is the frontier, this is where we know we have to kind of take our program to make sure that we're keeping this level in the future?
I think this has been every hallway conversation I assume you all are talking about as well. An interesting conversation I had at dinner last night was that last year, everyone was at this very early infancy of AI. This year, it feels like some of us are spending a lot more time investing and playing with AI. Others have just gotten access to Copilot, and there's a kind of a bigger gap in terms of adoption. I think next year we're going to see more convergence again, that everyone is going to spend time investing, and we're going to learn which tools are working well with CX. I would say the way that CVS has been, we're in a really lucky position that from a really top-down level, we very publicly said we're investing in AI. And so there's a lot of support from leadership to test and learn, to do proofs of concept, to really understand what is more efficient and effective for our programs. I think the way I would encourage folks to think about AI going forward is not just a reporting solution or speed to insights, but where are there gaps in terms of your customer feedback? Where are you not hearing from specific customers, and where do you wish you could learn more? And think about it in terms of how to fill those gaps. So we're doing a lot of work around synthetic and predictive NPS, digital twin populations. We're really trying to think about AI and sort of new measurement solutions as how do we fill gaps with our existing program, not just summarizing insights in Copilot. So that's really the way that we're thinking about the future right now.
We're focusing on quite a few areas. One of the areas is around engagement. We come up with some pretty crazy ideas sometimes on what we think is right in terms of what the customer wants or the customer needs or what programs to implement. And actually, we're not always right. So the most important thing that we're working on right now is engagement with our network to ensure that the plans that we have in place and the programs that we're launching are actually gonna work. So we launched them with a series of test beds and pilots. And actually what that does when we have that is it drives overall engagement in the Medallia platform. Okay. So engagement's not been an issue for us, but we're always trying to improve that area through our network. And actually, when we go out to the network and provide insight or get them involved in pilots, you see a significant increase in those engagement areas. Interesting stat for you. So again, I looked at the top 25% of our network in terms of platform engagement, and when you get them involved in those types of programs, we're seeing a 4.4 net promoter score increase, which when you're in the 80s is that's pretty significant in terms of program engagement. But it's not just the data, it's about what you do with it. So that's an area that we've been working on. I mentioned Genesis earlier. So we've just relaunched the Genesis brand, our luxury brand of the Hyundai arm, and we're just about to replicate EI, social scoring, everything that we've done for Hyundai with Genesis. But with Genesis, it's slightly different because the customer base is quite a unique customer base. We're offering a concierge service. It's a premium luxury vehicle. And when you've got a network of Hyundai dealers, which is what we're using to support the Genesis brand, there's a completely different level of engagement needed. So we're working on how that program's going to work for us. But you mentioned AI. I'm responsible for a contact center in the UK. And, we have all of these contact points coming in every day. Our customers and our contact center should be telling us how to do business. That's real life feedback. And, all the CRM systems that we've got and data that we've got, it's very difficult to draw down into those particular models. So it was really interesting on what was being shared earlier today, because I want to get AI in as quickly as we can. We haven't launched that yet, but I really see that as digging into that database and telling us real life, what happened yesterday, what issues have our customers got. I've got problems with my BlueLink, my digital services. Tell me exactly. How can I rectify these things? So yeah, really, really keen to look at what we're doing with that. And of course, the AI root cause analysis that we saw earlier. Again, we want to get that in as quickly as possible. So we're looking forward to that going live. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that what really jumped out at me this morning was not just the, hey, we can put it in the hands of the two of you and your teams and everybody in this room, like that's great and powerful. But when you put it in the hands of a store manager, of a dealership manager, how do we make their job easier? Like their job is not to be an insights person. It's not to be the Empress person. It's not to look at their scores. How do we help them show up day in, day out so they can quickly look, what are the recommendations? What are the actions? I'm checking in for my shift. I'm checking in at my store. What are the things that I need to do? So definitely some exciting stuff coming. I'll give you a quick plug. Feel free to scan this. There's several white papers, if you're trying to figure out like what is MDX and what are some of the acronyms that I use, feel free. You can not only scan that and then our benchmarking product, we're offering everybody that comes to experience $2,500 off. So feel free to scan that, stop by, talk to my team. It's a friendly bunch. But in terms of any questions, what's kind of on your mind? What are some things that you'd love to ask Ben and Allegra? While people are thinking about it, is there a pitfall that you would say that, hey, like, here's how we've stubbed our toe over the years that don't want you guys to make the same mistake? Or is there, on the flip side, is there some sort of an accelerator or something that it's like, yes, like we've done this really well. Here would be my kind of single practical tip that you might be able to share with somebody looking kind of to replicate this.
I repeat what I said earlier, really. We all think we've got great ideas. You need to test it. You need to make sure it works. And we spend a lot of time doing that. I come up with all kinds of crazy ideas in terms of what customer experience programs we can put in place. But the true reflection is, can you prove your return on investment? And make sure you test it from the outset.
I think a challenging area for us right now is being very excited to test AI and new measurement tools across a lot of different areas. And it's very easy to want to do pilots across 20 different companies that are all doing very similar things. I think it's a little bit harder to actually focus on what's the problem that you're trying to solve and finding the best partner and the best solution for that. So I think that's an area we're navigating around right now, because there's just such explosive growth in this space. Is how do we find the right partners for those solutions that we're looking for? I think some areas where we've had success are certainly that operational linkage piece, being able to speak the language of our partners, or, in ops, in sales, at the store colleague level, really being able to operationalize our data and help them make very immediate business decisions off of it. And I think that it is very embedded within the organization. Everyone understands NPS. Every new colleague to CVS has to take a number of different NPS training courses. So there's very much an adoption across the org that I think has helped us accelerate the program.
One of the things that we've implemented is what we call a CX champion for each of our locations. And that's not management level. It's not a business owner. It's somebody that's doing what you would class maybe as a day-to-day role, but they experience that engagement with the customer frequently. And we use them as a direct point of feedback. We bring them into our head office, we educate them on what we're trying to achieve, but we take their direct feedback. And they're the advocates of our programs. And once you have an advocate of your program, you can go where you like with it, really.
Thank you for attending. Thanks to Allegra and Ben. Appreciate all the guidance as you have stuff. Take your survey. We're pro feedback, right? Appreciate all the feedback, and come visit us. Thanks.